firms are opening new lines of business about which we know little, and there is something to be learned by all from the actions of the first entrants. That would be one case. Dissemination of information about world market conditions, for example, what the quality requirements are abroad to be able to export products. Those are lines where there is a clear rationale for government intervention. There is, in general, a need for what we would call experimentation. When you are opening lines of business, what you want is firms to try many things, and that means that you have to make startups easy, and you have to make failures easy as well. So what doesn't work is quickly wound up, and the resources are easily reallocated to some other activity. And in fact, those who think that East Asia is an example to follow in terms of government intervention often point out that one key ingredient of many East Asian experiences was the ability to exit lines of business that were not working. And that's something that has not been properly replicated almost anywhere else. So typically the kinds of government action in selecting lines of business has been more or less open this, and let's throw money at it for the next 20 years and hope that something will happen. So between those two extremes, I think there is a balance, and I think we're struggling with finding where it is.
Thanks, Luis. I've already lost control of the group, as you can see, because I really just wanted to go around and get people to introduce themselves very briefly, sort of say what their perspective is on this, where they're coming from, if you will. But it was useful because it reminded me of actually the final point that I think we ought to take some time to try to focus on is the design of how one would go from here to there. That's in some ways as important. The work, for example, of Danny Roderick and his colleagues at Harvard very recently has tended to draw on the Asian experience and emphasize exactly what Luis was saying. Well, we heard a bit from the Malaysian experience yesterday. One has to be quite rigorous in evaluating where you think you've actually gone. What have you achieved given the goals that you've set? One has to be quite ruthless in saying it's not working, we need to do something else. And how, in the context of these societies in the Gulf, one could actually achieve that sort of monitoring, evaluation, and feedback is perhaps as important as setting off on a particular journey, because the famous line from Deng Xiaoping, in East Asia, people in a sense have done development by feeling in the riverbed for the stones. And when you slip off the stone, by moving in order to take some other advantage of something, not staying on the same program, there's a tendency, whether it's in the OECD or anywhere else in the world, to stay in the Gulf, this kind of feedback and correction mechanism that would be important, whether you chose a specific sector like the Emirates or whether you chose a functional approach to try to deal with it. In both cases, you need exactly the same capacity. So we should.
John Marshall, I'm the contractors and procurement manager for Qatar Shell. Worked in a number of different countries around the world, so been faced with this diversification issue. I think for us, having bought the gas to liquids dependent on international companies to be able to help design, develop and procure, what I'm really interested in is going forward for the operation of the plant to see how we can actually diversify into the local market.
My name is Tarek Al-Shukri. I'm a research intern at GSDP Foundation. I've taken a corporate innovation and entrepreneurship course at Carnegie.
My name is Iman, and my experience is in genetics and epidemiology, but the reason I'm here because I'm working in a knowledge-based business project in the future, so I would like to participate in it.
My name is Khadija. I have a bachelor degree in biomedical, and I'm here for the same reason as Iman, because I work at Qatar Science and Technology Park, and I'm working on the knowledge-based business.
Yeah, my name is Emily. Sorry, I have a cold, so I have to scream. I'm actually from Sweden, and I'm working for QSTP together with these three on a knowledge-based business model project.
My name is Ibrahim Always. You have cold too? I think one of the very important things, other than talking about why diversify, is
production of water from electricity. If you adopt new methods for producing the water, you can reduce the water production cost by half, and you can use the spare capacity to increase water supply and go for new methods of agriculture. So I think we need to look
Our plant is sitting idle, just soaking up the sunk cost investment.
and yet there is no either time of day pricing
Absolutely.
or seasonal pricing.
Absolutely.
So pricing policy becomes crucial.
Subsidies it's the heart of it.
Well, and even worse, in almost all of the in fact, in all
They
of the
don't
GCC
pay.
countries, there is a heavily subsidized electricity and water cost, which causes people to consume in forms that don't make economic sense if the full cost were realized.
And in terms of insulation, the buildings are still insulated on the basis of a price of oil of $15 a barrel. So the building code has not changed. So there's an awful lot of work to be done on reducing the peak.
Can we go further into this topic of power generation and desalination?
We certainly
Or
can.
shall we
I'd
come back?
like to. I think there's a consensus that climate change does represent a potential threat. It's a potential challenge, one that the economies, if they wrestle with it early on, can actually turn into an opportunity. That it can drive innovation, and it can yield more efficient behaviors. That it is not as much a threat to DCC producers as it is perhaps to high-cost North Sea and other producers. Like
The problem with the GCC is oil producers and consumer regions sees the outlook for growth. And those who export petroleum, particularly Saudi Arabia, the biggest threat is to see a new technology which will displace petroleum in the transportation sector, which is now. And the major new technology in transportation sector in leasing and the petroleum area. I don't know much about new technology, about hydrogen and fuel cells and so on. I'm not really, but we should. These are really.
So, you may be talking about, for instance, the electric automobile as something that could be. Now, for Qatar, actually, the electric automobile is not such a bad idea. Natural gas being a great fuel for electricity generation could actually boost demand.